Hey everybody, this is Inland Stuff. We're back again with another drop, and this one's a little bit different. We've reached out to a few artists before and made some cool stuff, as you can see.
Unplanned, completely unplanned, but I love it. I love it.
Got a big pop when the Zoom meeting started. But yeah, we've got Mike Schubert here, and Mike, why don't you tell everybody what the heck we're doing? Because this is really cool.
This is super fun. So this is a collaboration between Inland Stuff, obviously, and the Newest Olympian, which is one of the podcasts that I make. It's a Percy Jackson podcast where I never read those books as a kid. So it's me making my way through the series for the very first time, basically to see if society has been sleeping on it, because it doesn't seem to have the same notoriety as some other fantasy fandoms and young adult scope-ish series. So I've been finding that the world has been sleeping on it, and they're really good, but it's coming more and more to light. Obviously, there's still a bunch of people who love the books. Now the TV show is helping and everything, but it's been really fun. It's been a really fun journey to make my way through the series. I'm on to the sequel books right now. And yeah, we just got in touch via Instagram. You reached out, and I had always wanted to do some sort of merch line partnership with people doing cool stuff. And lo and behold, I had people doing cool stuff in my Instagram messages. And here it is. So this is the fun thing that happens when you slide into someone's DMs, and it's not weird.
Yeah, no, it wasn't weird at all. No, yeah, that's been so cool. I'm glad you're doing the Newest Olympian stuff. No, not Newest Olympian stuff. It's Percy Jackson stuff.
Right. Look, I'll take it. I don't want to, obviously Rick wrote the books and he deserves more credit than me. But when people accidentally call the series the Newest Olympian series and they accidentally call chapters of the book episodes, I'm happy to be in the brains.
Oh man, that's gonna be me. I haven't read a page of those books. But like,
You got time.
I was a long time listener, first time DMer. I don't know. I've been watching what you do for a long time. Man, back with the Potterless stuff like that, you got me hook, line, and sinker. That was some of the funniest stuff I've ever listened. Honestly, like creatively, it was really inspiring to me.
Oh.
Like listening to that stuff. Like you went off and you did some D&D stuff with Eric Silver, with those guys on their I forget what the name of their podcast is. It was so long ago, but like I'd never played D&D in my life. And I was like, man, those guys are having the time of their life. Like, why are we like talking to my friends? So like got us to play D&D. And so, yeah, like don't really know each other, but like that connection's been really cool. And it's been fun to work on your stuff. Think you got a package today.
So I did. I went through it right before recording. It looks fresh. Everything's clean. I'm very excited about it. And I think what's cool with this particular line of merch is that we've got like the TNO stuff, but then there's also things that are just kind of inspired by either first thoughts about what the books are about or the podcast or both. And I think especially because you haven't read the books, it's true to the essence of the Newest Olympian, which is me going through the series for the very first time. You made that design with the Statue of Liberty Medusa, which is just a perfect thing of, okay, it's a New York Greek mythology book. So let's go with Medusa, Statue of Liberty. And I never thought of it. And it's genius. And the design looks sick. Like it's really good. And I know a lot of people from the teasers on social media are hyped about it as well. And I think that is what's great about it. And I think that's what's really fun about making this merch collaboration over Percy Jackson and the Newest Olympian is I feel like that universe is so fun and so expansive that it allows for more fun merchandise opportunities. If you're doing Harry Potter merch, like if we were doing something with Potterless, my first major podcast that was what launched all of my podcasting career, if you do Harry Potter merch, you kind of have to like do Harry Potter merch. Like it has to be inspired by the houses, the crests, all that kind of stuff. But with Percy Jackson, because it's Greek mythology, because they go to so many different locations, because you have so many rich things to pull from, you don't feel as limited. And I'm sure with you guys coming up with these designs, you could have some fun with it. There's so many characters, like Pegasus-wise. There's Blackjack, which kind of led into that New York City skyline, purple Pegasus design as well. I think it opens the doors for a lot of cool things. Yeah, and you can get these shirts without knowing anything about those books, my podcast, or anything. You just be like, yo, that Statue of Liberty Medusa looks cool. And it doesn't matter. It's great.
Yeah, so funny. I think I texted you this story, but when I printed that first sample of Medusa, some of you guys have seen our shop. It's a pretty big print shop. our section, inland section of this print shop is on the far end of the building. So like if we make something cool and we want to go show anybody, it's a country mile to the other side of the shop. So I have this really cool shirt and I'm going down to show the guys in the office just to see what they think, and all the guys are stopping to look at it as we walk by, like give it thumbs up. It's so funny. But then I'm sitting in the office showing Dennis, and he's like, "Man, that is so cool. It reminds me of like a Van Halen or like an '80s like concert team."
Totally.
And and our boss David walks in, and he's like on a mission. He's going to talk to somebody else, and he like walks by, and he does like a double take, and he like looks and goes, "What in the world is that?" Because he has no idea. Like
Yeah.
we're doing inland stuff, and he's just he's along for the ride, and it's really fun. But it stopped him in his tracks. He's like, "I want you guys to print some of those for me, like the clients, and tell them what we're doing here." So that made my day because I'm like, "Okay, right, we're doing something good here." But yeah, it's been really fun to. I mean, yeah, I don't have a clue. I know what like Greek mythology is, and that's been kind of like a fun outlet for all of us. Our last drop was very like text based and like really fun. Like the print styles were really fun, and so it's been a cool shift for us. We're like, okay, this drop is almost completely graphic tees, and that's pretty cool for us. So, yeah. But tell us a little bit, like, tell us about you. Like, where are you from? Like, we don't know Mike Schubert, so like,
Sure.
we'd love to get to know you a little bit.
Totally. I grew up in central New Jersey. I lived there for the first 14 years of my life. And then my dad's job relocated. So right before I started high school, I moved to Texas. I did high school there. I did college there. Then at college, I was studying mechanical engineering. I always wanted to do creative stuff, but I kind of took what I labeled as the safer version of the whole, oh, I waited tables during the day and did stand-up comedy at night. I was like, what if I did that, but with like a well-paying 9 to 5? Because I was good at math and science. I knew I could get a surefire job in engineering. Whereas if I went to school and tried to study visual and dramatic arts and stuff like that, there's no guarantee just because you get a degree. Someone's like, well, sir, you must be a part of the SNL cast now because you got a degree. So I figured, let's get the degree in the surefire thing, get the job, do creative stuff with all of your free time, save up enough money, and then hopefully you can make the jump over. So studied engineering, majored in it, did that for my first 4 years after graduation. The first 2 was in a rotational program, so I moved every 6 months. I lived in Texas, California, Paris, and then Texas again. And then I got like my first full-time position in Seattle, and I was doing that for a couple of years. And during that span is when Potterless, my Harry Potter show, really kicked off, and that allowed me to get a job doing podcast advertising stuff in New York, a little lower paying, but money was coming in from Patreon and stuff with Potterless. And then Potterless continued to grow to where that job I was able to do a part-time version of it. And then Potterless continued to grow so much so that it just had to be the full-time thing. I didn't have enough time. And I've been full-time podcasting since 2019, doing the shows, doing live shows, selling merch, stuff like that, all the things to kind of make a really strange but lovely career. And we're recording this at the end of March. Just filed the old taxes. Super fun, always good and normal. But yeah, I mean, it's a little bit about me and the journey. I always wanted to do something creative. I tried out lots of different things. I did YouTube videos in high school. I was really into Vine. I had my stints doing improv comedy, did a bunch of that, did some stand-up as well. Podcasting just like really kind of scratched a lot of itches and hit skill sets that I think I was good at. And clearly it worked out. Potterless took off, and that allowed me to make some other shows. And then the Newest Olympian kind of carried the torch of Potterless when I ran out of Harry Potter stuff to cover, and J.K. Rowling became a public, terrible person. So it aligned up really well, and I'm having a really good time doing the Percy Jackson books now. It's been a delight.
Yeah, that's so cool. So I know nothing about Percy Jackson. I think maybe I watched the movie. There's a movie
There's 2 movies and they're quite bad, but there is now the TV show and it is quite good. So got that.
Show's good, movie sucked. Tell me a little bit about the series. So I have no idea. If you're
sure
me on it, like I want to get off this call later and be like go out and get a book. Like, is that like you do that?
Yes, I can. I mean, honestly, and I've got my copy of The Lightning Thief here. Let me just grab it, because I think when I started reading these, the opening line of this just like really got me. So I'm just going to let the books themselves do the initial cooking. The first page hits so hard. It opens with, "Look, I didn't want to be a half-blood." And then it continues, "If you're reading this because you think you might be one, my advice is clear. Close this book right now. Believe whatever lie your mom or dad told you about your birth and try to lead a normal life." Like right off the bat, it's saying, don't you dare read this book. Incredible. Chapter 1 is called "I Accidentally Vaporized My Pre-Algebra Teacher." So if the title and the first 2 lines don't get you, I don't know what will. But in a non-spoilery way, it is a middle grade series, so even a little bit younger than YA, about kids who are demigods. So one of their parents will be a human and one of their parents will be one of the gods. And these kids have various magical abilities based on whoever their godly parent is. And they go to a summer camp called Camp Half-Blood, where all of these different kids meet, and then they train, and then they learn how to hone their skills, and then some of them go on quests. So Percy comes in, there's the mystery of who is his dad, and then he is sent on a quest and goes all along the way. You meet various Greek mythological figures. The camp is in New York, but then they make their way all across the US, which is really fun. Lots of different cities and states get visited, and they're fighting monsters along the way, and they're dealing with gods and all these different figures who you might recognize from stories. Medusa finds her way into the first book. There's gods that you know, like Zeus and Hades and all these other people. So it's really fun. There's centaurs, there's satyrs, there's nymphs, there's all sorts of the cool Greek mythological creatures that you know as well. And it's really fun. So there's 5 books of them in the main series. Then there's sequel books and spin-off books and all this sort of stuff. But it's just really fun. And what I really like about it is that it's got like all the action, but it's really funny. Like the book is genuinely very funny. It's narrated in first person. So not only do you get to see Percy as the character be really fun and funny and empathetic, but as the narrator, since it's in first person, you also get an insight into like what he's thinking. So it's almost like you get to meet him twice as much because he's narrating. It's not like a third person distant thing. So you feel really attached to Percy early on and really invested in his story, and all the characters are great, and it's just really fun. The action's good, the comedy's there, the intrigue is there, a lot of like suspense, like what happens next. It's truly just got it all. They're fantastic books.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't know. Like, obviously, I've been intrigued since we've been working on your project, but it's like I'm a husband. I run this thing. I've got 3 kids, one on the way. When do I get to just sit down and read a book? But like the way work's going, I might be able to listen to some. So
right. They got the audiobooks for sure. You can just listen to my podcast. Honestly, I go so deep in the recaps of it that I know a bunch of people who just listen to the podcast and don't read the books. They're like, you summarize it perfectly enough. I just want to know the story. But also because they are geared towards a younger audience, like you really can blow through them. And I'm a huge proponent of adults should read young adult books as like beach reads or relaxing reads, or I know people who are in book clubs where they'll read like really intense books, and before they read another really intense one, they're like, if I could have a palate cleanser. That's what my mom does. My mom's in a book club. They always read these like deep, heart-wrenching stories. Sometimes they're true, sometimes they're fiction, but they're always like really emotional. And in between book club books, she reads a Percy Jackson book and then listens to my podcast episodes about it. It's the most wholesome thing ever.
That is awesome. Yeah, I like that idea. I'm gonna have to. I've made so many excuses because my buddy has a podcast called Super Gamer Boys, and like that's been such a cool thing. Like he lives in California,
okay,
and we went to school together in Milwaukee, and like that was 2012 was like the last time we were like ever really like hung out. And a few years went by, and he started this podcast. And I started listening to it in the car, like on my way to work. I had like a 30-minute commute. And then after like 2 or 3 weeks of listening to like catching up on his podcast, I was like, man, I missed that guy. Like he's talking to this other dude, like this other host on here. And I'm like jealous. And so, so I called him up. I'm like, hey, this is so weird because I can listen to you like talk to this guy and I feel like I'm part of the conversation, and that's the cool thing. Like, so like, yeah, I feel like I've been missing out on this. So it'll be fun to catch up. I definitely think I'll give it a listen. And,
sweet, man.
Yeah, it's so exciting. But anyway, what else are you into? Like you live in New York, right?
Yes, I do.
That's cool. That's where a lot of the New York inspiration comes from. Like I had an idea that it took place, I think from watching a movie, that some of it took place in New York.
Yeah.
but mostly we were like, well, Mike's there, so let's just let's
Yeah, I
move
mean,
to New York.
yeah,
Uh,
there's definitely a lot of influence in the podcast specifically because New York references show up. I get delighted whenever that happens. And then just by pure luck, some of the cities that they visited when they are not in New York are places that I've either visited or lived. So that's really fun to be able to talk about that. But yeah, New York definitely plays a big role in the series. The way that it works in the mythos of the books is that the Mount Olympus, where the gods live, actually moves wherever like culture is the strongest. So it was in Greece
huh.
because that was like the center of culture thousands of years ago. But now it's America. So specifically, it is on the 600th floor of the Empire State Building, is where Mount Olympus is in these books. And that means that a lot of the stuff happens in New York. They go there quite often. The fifth book, which closes out the first five like main Percy Jackson books, a lot of that's in New York. There's a big battle between the Titans and the gods in New York City. So it definitely plays a big role in the books. And I think that's why a lot of people suggested it to me when I was running out of Harry Potter content with Potterless. People were saying, like, you should read these books, not even necessarily thinking for your next podcast, but just I think based on what you like and dislike about Harry Potter, you would like these books. And 100%, like it's great. And yeah, as a New Yorker, I get to do the Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the camera meme,
Yes,
pointing at the screen meme, and that's really good. So yeah, I love it. I love New York, and I love the fact that it comes up in the books a lot.
that's so awesome. No offense, but like I grew up well in acreage in the middle of nowhere in
Mhm.
Iowa with cows in my bedroom type
Sure.
stuff. And so like I tell people all the time, like I can't fathom like even just being in New York. Like I live in Indianapolis, but people joke all the time, like it's the biggest like small town you could live in.
Yeah, I've been there. I think that's accurate.
Yeah, like it's even like the way that the streets are laid out, like it's not even confusing. Like I've been to a lot of big cities like Chicago, Minneapolis, LA. I'm like just getting around, I'm like, wait, which way's north? Like Indianapolis, like it's where I'm going on what, 11 years or something living here. I'm like, it's like second nature now, but I'm still
Mhm.
like it's like I can't just go outside and take a leak type of stuff. So like New York is so overwhelming, but
Mhm.
like being able to sit down and design around that stuff was like super fun because obviously a lot of that's iconic and we all know like Statue of Liberty and all those buildings and things like that. So yeah, thanks for letting us be a part of that. That was super fun. I don't know if you want to talk about your contest by the time I think by the time we're done tonight, like it
Yeah.
might
I
be over,
I think
but
it's gonna
it's
be over because we're recording this March 31st, and we had it set by the end of the month. So I think I can safely say that Minneapolis St. Paul has won. They had a solid enough lead by midday today that I don't think the other ones have probably usurped it, but it was cool. Like this drop allowed me to do a couple of things that I've really wanted to do. First, I always like the idea of making my podcast merchandise that doesn't like have to feel so podcast specific. The first piece of merch I ever made for TNO was a shirt that just said "What's good" on it because that's how I open the shows, and that felt like a cool thing where if you know the podcast, it's a reference, but it's also just like a generally positive greeting that I like to ask people and say. So I always liked the idea of trying to find podcast merch that didn't feel necessarily like podcast merch. And I knew some YouTubers who had done it, and I was really inspired by them. Like Jarvis Johnson, one of my friends, has a lot of cool stuff. He has like his good enough line, which, it makes reference and it's something that fits with his YouTube channel, but also someone could just like see it in a store and be like, that looks cool, and then get it. And by being able to do the team up with Inland, I really like the designs because it kind of goes in both directions, right? Like people who don't know my podcast and see the drop might be like, yo, that Pegasus shirt is cool. Who cares? And then on the flip side, people who only know about this drop from my podcast might go, oh, well, it doesn't necessarily like have TNO blasted on it, but the Medusa on the Statue of Liberty feels incredibly on brand for this podcast and this series. So I really liked being able to do that. And then, like you're saying, this competition, we did a thing where we're making T&O shirts with the state outline of whatever state has the most tickets sold in this Midwest run that I'm doing. And I love the Midwest. I've only been to a lot of these cities when I'm on tour, and I always tour in the Midwest in the spring and the summer. So I have this like beautifully rosy impression of the Midwest. Like Milwaukee, people, when they're talking about like NBA players getting traded to Milwaukee, they're like, oh, it's so cold. And I'm like, Milwaukee's fantastic. I've been there in July and August, and that's it. But I love it. I love the Midwest. I think it's fantastic. And by nature of this tour, we announced all of the tickets at the same time, and then all of the dates are like within 8 days of each other. So doing a competition felt right, whereas sometimes I'll do shows like nearby, but they're like weeks apart, so it's hard to like really do a competition. And being able to do this was really fun, where we got to pit it off. And you see, I made like a graph on Google Sheets and everything. You could see like them crisscrossing, and people are talking smack to each other on Reddit, and in the Instagram comments are like, we're really gonna let Des Moines beat us. Like, oh, it's great. It's really good. And for you, Iowa, man, Des Moines is showing some love. Like, I'm sure if we did this like a really intense, like per capita, per population thing, I feel like they would be the winners. But I know people from Des Moines are really hyped for the show, and I think that's really cool. But it was so fun to do the competition and everything, and people are stoked about it. And it just seems like generally people are excited about this team up with our two brands. And I'm glad they are, because it's so fun. And hopefully we'll do more stuff later down the road, because there's so many things to do, and this could be just the beautiful beginnings.
That's the beauty of this whole like starting endless stuff, is like we never intended to just be like, hey, let's collab with Jeffrey on these and then just never come back. Like,
Right.
why would we do that? Like, this is so fun. And like we're actually going on Fox News here in Indy.
Sweet.
Like 2 weeks, 2 3 on the 17th. And we have kind of some exciting news, because we might be moving away from just exclusive drops to building an annual collection through drops.
Cool. Good for you guys.
Yeah, we're really excited about that. It's just the pace of this is like, not to be cocky, but doable. Like we're pretty flexible, and our schedule allows for it, like to just do drop after drop after drop. But after doing some research and stuff, like the audience probably isn't going to want to keep up with that. Like, it's too, the randomness of it.
Yeah.
Like, it costs too much to get in front of that many people type of stuff. And we just want this to be organic. So like, being able to reach out to people that we know or that are in like our spheres of influence has made this so much fun. Cause like we could like pay Joe Schmo that just makes really cool stuff to collab with us. And like, that's not what we really want to do. Like, we want to seek out people and just bring them into the fold. And like, yeah, we're going to figure out some compensation here and there and stuff. But like, I don't know, we just don't want it to ever feel like corporate.
No.
So that's been super fun. I do have 2 favors for you when you're on your tour. One of them, you have to get Casey's Pizza. You were telling me everybody's telling me about.
I'll definitely be getting the breakfast pizza for sure. Obviously, I'm a very snooty Northeast boy when it comes to like proper pizza, so I don't know, especially with all the other recommendations. But getting the particular, specific breakfast pizza, that sounds like a must. So that'll be happening.
Just waltz in there. Don't order anything.
Okay.
Just get it off of the stupid like warmer thing. That's how it's meant to be.
Okay.
If you live there, it'd be different. If you're staying there for some amount of time, you'd be ordering a pizza. The other thing, when you're in Minnesota, you have to tell the crowd that your buddy from Iowa says it wasn't a fair catch. Still wasn't a fair catch.
Is this a football thing?
No. Just see what happens. You might get a good pop. You might get some tomatoes thrown at you or something, but I'm still pretty salty about that, and might always be. So when you're there, just give a few people maybe just like, hey, wasn't a fair catch. Hey, wasn't a fair catch. Still no fair catch.
I will guess this happens specifically because you said Iowa. I'm guessing this is some sort of college football, which is like one level beyond sports that I don't do. I don't like football. I don't like college sports. So like the double level of it, I'll have no idea what's going on. So yeah, I'll bring it up. I don't care.
How do you feel about Caitlin Clark then?
Oh, love her. All about it. I've been courtside at a Fever game the year before Caitlin Clark. So like courtside seats were not expensive at all. And
Yes.
I had a delightful time. It was great. It was at the field house, like where they
Yes.
do the rodeo. So that was cool. The owner of the team came over and said hi to me, my friend. Like it was beautiful, and it was the right year to do it. I think it was even the year before they got Aaliyah Boston, so it was truly like I was
Yeah.
there at the ultimate valley of the fever.
Yeah. Like you went to the fairgrounds and
Yes,
watched.
yes, oh yes.
Okay, that
Hmm.
is awesome. Good
Yeah,
for you.
it
Um,
was great, and the tickets were not as expensive as they should have been, and they will never now with Caitlin. And now
no,
their off season, they had a beautiful off season. Like the Fever are in really prime position. I love Caitlin Clark. I think she's fantastic. I respect her so much with all of the crap that she puts up with because people are so weird about her, and I really just respect her game in terms of like on the court and her game in terms of how she condones herself, because to wade through the waters of misogyny that she does so beautifully, power to her.
yeah, she is a dog, and like I'll take this to my grave though. But I came here first from Iowa, so
You are the trailbeister.
yeah, make sure everything was fine, and then yeah, it's cool. You can come on over. That was really cool. Like even Quasar, like our guy we did our last drop with, like she's everywhere.
Mhm.
Like he said that when he did his mural of her, like he put that up on that wall like months before the draft. Like, but that was there was
You're gonna
no
go
way.
there. Yeah.
Like I told him, I was like, that would probably be yeah, no, 100%. That would have been the dumbest decision in the history of maybe ever.
It would have been wild. It's
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
hoping the Dallas Wings do, because I'm a huge Seattle Storm fan, because
Okay.
when I was living in Seattle, there's no men's team, so I just got super into the Storm and Schubert and all that. And the Storm right now have the number 2 pick in what is going to be the Paige Beckers draft.
Yes.
And I hope that Dallas does something as bad as the Nico Harrison trade of Luka Doncic, where something happens and Paige falls to us. I would be over the moon, but I don't think it's going to happen. But here's holding out hope. Here's holding out hope. But Paige is
Hey,
also going to be a really fun one as well. So it's a really good time for the W. I've loved the league for a while, and it's good to see people finally catching up to how fun of a league it is.
yeah, definitely a wild time to be in Indianapolis for sure.
Dude, yeah. I mean, the Pacers are fun too. The Halliburton trade worked out really well, so things are good in Indy.
Speaking of the Pacers,
Hmm.
I know you're into basketball.
Yes.
I grew up wrestling. I grew up. I
Okay.
mean, what am I supposed to do? Like basketball was not our thing,
Hmm.
and it was wrestling and football, and that's it.
Hmm.
Um, but I will say, like since I've been here, and actually Andrew Bogut and Brandon Jennings era Milwaukee.
Yes.
That's when I went to school up there, and so I
Oh,
went to
okay.
Bucks. Like the
Those
Bucks.
Bucks teams were fun.
Yes, yeah, those were my guys. Like that's
Early Monte Ellis. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes, yeah. And then he came here.
Mm.
Um,
Yes.
but that was fun. But fast forward to last, like the Pacers had a crazy week, like a week or two ago. Like every game was like borderline overtime,
Right.
like one or two points. But my buddy calls me. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to the game tonight. There's like $30 tickets in the bottom, like the bottom rung." He's like, "You want me to grab you one?" I said, yeah."
Yeah.
It's
Gosh.
like, all right. And so he swung by and grabbed me. And then I remembered my wife and I met somebody that works for the Pacers, and we've been getting to be pretty good friends for him. We're with him. And I texted him. I said, "Hey, my buddy and I are coming to the game tonight." Like, I didn't know what
Yeah,
could come
just
back or
throw it
whatever.
out there. Who knows?
Yeah, and like 2 seconds later, he said, "All right, let me know when you're here." And I look at my buddy Daniel. I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I don't know what that means. I don't know.
Nope. Could be anything.
Might just come hang out with us in our seats. Like, who knows?" And so we get there, and you'll appreciate this. We sit in our seats, and we're like maybe 20 rows up from the back of the hoop, and we're sitting there, and I call my buddy, or he calls me. I'm sorry, and I look down, and I'm like, "All right." He says like, "Look over here." And I'm like looking around. He's like, "Down here to your left." And he's like standing on the court, and he like beckons us down. And so I'm like, "Okay." He's like, and he's on the phone. He's like, "Yeah, just come on down. It's no big deal." And so we go down. This was like 25 minutes before tip off, probably. And we go to the corner, and he like tells the security lady to open up the gate and let us down. And he's like asking us how our day's going. And he's like, all right, come with me. And so we go back, we follow him back through the tunnel.
Oh, cool.
Past the little like VIP bar thing. And he's like, all right, just post up here for a minute. And we're like standing up against this wall. It's my buddy Daniel and I and our friend that we know. And we're just like shooting the breeze, and Boomer, the mascot, comes by, breaks character, and like talking to our buddy, and he introduces us. We're like shaking hands and stuff. And then like we put two and two together. Like we were standing on this wall, and directly in front of us is this hallway, and we're like, oh, that's the locker room. Like the locker. And to our left is like the practice courts. And I'm like, what are we like? This feels insane. It's just
so cool.
This wall. Like there's a couple people like hobnobbing and like security guard people like walking by, and we're standing there. And all of a sudden, like you hear a bunch of shouting and stuff, and TJ McConnell comes out.
TJ,
and, like, all these people hyping him up. He's like leaning against the wall, shaking just by himself. And like the security guards, like he must be like a goofball because like hyping him up, like yelling at him, like, all right, T, let's go, and like goofy stuff. And then they all come out. And that was the moment I realized, like, oh, these guys are like tall.
Yeah.
Like, it was like the time, but I was like, I'm pretty big dude. Like I'm 6'2", which I realize isn't that tall.
I mean, that's big, but also Steph Curry, the little guy out there, has an inch on you. Like that's the league.
I'm like, so they're all out there stretching like 10 feet in front of us, like having a good time. And they huddle up, and then Boomer all of a sudden gets down in like a track stance in front of us. I'm thinking, what in the world? Realize what's about to happen, and that he takes off in front of the VIP thing, and they all go nuts. And then the team does a little hoorah thing, and they run in front of us. And then our buddy's like, all right, guys, come on. So the team runs by us and goes out, and I'm like, that's Miles Turner. Like he is
7 feet tall.
Yeah, he's huge. They just kind of trot by us to go out on the court. And then it's team, like Miles Turner class, and then us. Like we just walked out onto the court with our buddy, and like he like placed us underneath the hoop, and we got to just watch them do shooter. Like
incredible.
It was insane. Like I told my wife, I'm like, I don't feel like I like and because like I wanted to talk to our friend. Like he works for security for the Pacers. And like I was like, I just want to know like this is your job? Like what do you like you just like carte blanche, like anybody could have just come down and like, and so shooting the breeze with him was so fun. But yeah, that was sweet. And then so like the Mavs suited like 7 guys that night. And that was nuts. It like came down to the last like 5 seconds, I think, and it like it felt like a playoff game. And then they just did that the rest of the week. It was wild. But
awesome stuff. That's so cool, man. I love it.
You're welcome. You get that little story. Hopefully you come out and have the same experience for a fewer game sometime.
Yeah, I know what to do if I'm ever going to a Pacer game. I'm going to call you to call that guy.
Yeah, we'll have to go if you're ever in Indy. That'd be so much fun.
Dude, I would love to. That would be a delight. That would be an absolute delight.
But hey, dude, thanks so much for doing this.
This is so fun. I'm so stoked about it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I think we're shooting for the 7th. The whole thing.
Cool.
But yeah, we'll get stuff made. We'll send it to people and see what people have to say about it.
Yeah, hopefully, like I said earlier, hopefully this is just the first of many, and we continue working together. It's been a delight working with you and the team, and it was fun kind of collaborating on the designs and the feel and what we wanted to do with the whole drop. And I'm really excited. I mean, look, I got all the stuff. My wife's eyes bulged out of their sockets when she saw the hoodie. She's like, I'm stealing that. Yes. So it's going to be good. I'm really excited. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Appreciate you, buddy. Let's get after it.
Let's do it.